Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Book to Block, the series where I bring my fantasy novel to life in Minecraft, one block at a time. Today's episode, we're down here in the bunker to start off with. Just to show a little update on the map here, you can see a little bit of the plains roughening is kind of showing up, a little bit of extension on the mountains I've been working on, as well as our waterfall to river to the lake, and a little bit of an update from our village. I gotta go back over and check it again, see if there's any more updates, but today we're going to be working down here in the farming district. So without further ado, let's hop over to the lake village and work on the farming district. Alright, so here we are over in the farming district. So I've removed the sign up in the sky and the border. So I'm going to kind of not go for the straight path of the main walls because they're kind of the more built up version. I'm going to go for more of a kind of curved area, but not a perfect circle because a perfect circle can kind of mess with the look you want for a kind of messy, just like thrown together fence. So down over here are the different fences I kind of planned out. So most of them have like a wooden post on the edge, kind of a slab and the stairs on the top. I kind of wanted to keep that consistent. And then I went for different things on the bottom here. So I tried iron bars, fences, fence gates, trapdoors both on the front and back of the block. And then I came to the walls. So I kind of had two different versions for the final version of this wall. So cobblestone on top with tough on the bottom, or tough on top with cobblestone on the bottom. When looking at it, I think I preferred this one just because it shows the tough a bit more, and it's a less used texture in Minecraft itself. So I think I'm going to go for this one with our fence posts here. So I don't want it too light, so I didn't use the campfires, I just put lanterns inside instead. Surround it using some of these wooden posts, cap it off with the slab, and then I'll try and keep this kind of pattern throughout the whole wall around the farming district. Like the problem I had with this one here for the main village, had a problem of trying to like tile it. So I ended up using a repeating tile, just kind of repeating pattern, just so I could keep it consistent and in the straight line, just to make it easier. This one, it's not as needed because it doesn't have going block to block. It's all wall and then the slab on top, so it'll be a little bit easier to do things on like a curved surface. So I'm going to build up that wall now, and then we can see how I kind of dealt with the curved problem. Alright, so here's the shape. I kind of used the shape tool. So I went to shape, I went into a polygon. I did something like 9 size. So I'll put that back to 0. Then just made it like really large. Even larger than that. We went to 200, nope, 50. So it was something like this, rotated around, kind of played around with it. And it's kind of the shape you can see here. A little bit smaller maybe. So let's go 120. Maybe 130. So you can kind of see it kind of fits in at some points. I played around, made different ones, and then kind of freestyled a little bit. So then I had somewhat of this whilst I was doing a little time lapse, so I could kind of follow along. So it wasn't just random placing, except for a couple areas where I had to do for like when you have the up steps, you kind of have to adjust. For like things like this, you don't want that. You bring it forward so it's not like hidden under the grass. So that's the outline done. We can now come over here and I'll bring up the path. So we'll go to the noise tool. I've got it set up a little bit. Add in a bit of grass, just a small amount like usual. And then I'll bring that up to 3 and just bring it up to the front gate here. That's why I left this little gap here. So next thing is kind of planning out the areas. So let's go into our colors. Good old red. So I think here is going to be kind of like a farmhouse, more like a barn, storage for different things that will be needed in this area. Here will be maybe a pig pen, a cow pen. I'm gonna have a large area set aside for wheat in here. Maybe come over to this side, split that in two, have some carrots and some maybe potatoes here. And then I'm thinking of having this backside as kind of like a apple orchard, kind of like free range, not too like structured, kind of just some apple trees. I'll use the heads for making the apples, kind of like I have over in the market. Oh, and if you're wondering what this guy over here, this is a privacy shield because behind it, it was working on the next episode. So I didn't want to add any spoilers. I kind of work on multiple episodes at once, kind of doing different builds all at the same time for whenever I get inspiration for each one. So if you can remember what's in that area there, you kind of have an idea for what the next episode is, but I won't spoil it if you don't know. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build up on the wall using the tuff. You can see over here, zoomed a little too much. The tuff and then the wooden posts, I'll build those up. And then I can sort of plan the pathing through this area, make the fences for each, like the pens, and then for the different fields to protect them from being trampled or anything. And then I can start building each one with the details for the kind of barn house, any little things inside of the animal pens, build up the trees. I think I'll go for custom trees instead of just regular vanilla ones, so I can have a little bit more hanging branches, so I can add more apples in there. And then the fun part of tilling all of this area, making sure it gets the water in like hidden areas because you don't want too much water flowing through. It would be nice if I had kind of like a river through here, but this is above the water level, so it doesn't really work. So we'll have to get creative with hiding the water underneath. And then we can plant everything, and I'm sure that'll make a nice time lapse. But without further ado, let's get to finishing off this fence. So now with the outer wall done, I'll add in a little nice entrance gate here, nothing too grand because it's not like needs to be heavily fortified, just enough to keep out any like critters that live on the plains and such. And then next, I think I'm going to work on the barn here. So something for like storage for equipment, maybe for some of the produce from all this before it gets sent to the village or the main city. Just a little stopgap just for easy storage, maybe a couple animal pens inside. So let's get to the building that, and then we can work on the rest of the build. And here we are. So that is the build of the barn finished. So I kind of went in with a little experiment in this one, doing a bit of experimenting with the walls and trapdoors here. So I kind of went in, placed the logs as you saw in the time lapse, and then I decided instead of using full blocks for the one back gap, I decided I would use the walls and trapdoors, just for a little bit of difference. So if I go grab these, we can do a little demonstration. there, go here. So for these, it gives 3 different depths. So we can also use, I just grab this. So it can either be like half a block back, almost 3/4 of a block back, or a full block back. And it kind of gives more depth to your builds. So I went with the walls down here, trapdoors for these, and it also doubles up as a nice window kind of thing, opens up. It gets the little depth difference between the stairs here and then the walls, as well as it matches in nicely. It doesn't leave any gaps up here with the trapdoors. Kind of went for an arch on the supports. And then if we come in here, so this is the internal, so I did similar to the pathing out there for the floor, kind of all beat up and walked on a lot. So a couple pens, maybe put in a couple animals here. Might open up this so it's like an easy in and out there, so they don't have to come through the front area. And then we can come up here to the second level. So I've done a little bit of decorating, so I've got some hay bales that are kind of nicely stored here for when they're going to be shipped off. Little pile of chests, little open area so they can use maybe rope to bring up the hay bales, because bringing up the ladders would be probably too heavy. And then I've got a little pile of barrels, so they're half organized, half disorganized. So I think that's good for the barn of this area, just fills in the area a bit more. So now we can get on to all the different pens. So I'm going to do a time lapse of all the different fencing for these 2 pens and then for all these. And then we can decorate and then come and talk about the little details I'm going to work on. Alright, and there we are. So these are the different fences. So we got a pig pen, a cow pen, large wheat field, and then some carrots and potatoes here just for a little bit of variety. And then kind of in the back here, it's a little bit more open, so I'm going to go for just a casual apple tree orchard. Is over in the grocer over there. They've got some apples, so need somewhere where they come from. The forest that's going to be over there won't really have apples. It'll be more just like a regular forest. So this is kind of like where they cultivate the apples to sell on the market. So first up, we're going to do the pig pen. So we're going to go for a noise painter. We're going to grab some mud for the pigs. And then we're going to do coarse dirt and rooted dirt. And opposed to how I usually do things when I reduce the scale, I'm going to keep the scale quite large for this one. And then I'm going to do block, just grass, so it doesn't affect my fences here. And then just kind of go along here. As you can see, it creates more large patches, which is kind of what I want with like the mud and stuff. So I'm going to go just outside the area, so it's not too... You can see underneath the grass, I'll need to do these ones by hand because it's affected by the block that's on top of it. But after that, we can add in a couple little features. So we're going to go to a trapdoor. I'm going to use this one and this. You'll see what I'm going to do in a second. So up over here, I think here's a good place for it. And then I'm going to place these in here. And it's kind of like a little food trough. This is kind of the best block for that. I can add in some entities later on for some like apples and stuff just to add a little bit of variety, but that's good for that. Then I'm going to go in with some stairs. Let's go in with spruce. Find a good place for it. I think over here near the water is good. And then bring it around. And then, so now we have a little water trough. I'm going to grab a gate, just so it's nice and easy for the workers of this area to get to the water to fill up this area. Next is going to be a little structure here, so let's build that now. And there we go. So this is just a little shelter, kind of shelter the pigs if there's ever bad weather and such. So now last step, adding in a couple of pigs. So since I've made quite a large area, Forgot to close off that bit. Don't want them escaping. A decent number, so it's kind of a humane area. It's not too jammed in there with not a lot of space. So we can add a couple more. I think that's a decent amount for that area. We're probably going to clump up, do the weird AI of them, but I think that's good for this area. So next on to the cows. Alright, for this area, we're going to go for the cows now. So I'm thinking of doing, instead of the mud, rooted and coarse dirt, I'm just going to grass, rooted and coarse dirt. So similar to that one with the larger, so swap out that for grass, and then just paint around. Alright, some nice patches. I think this patch here, I'm going to dig down a little bit. I kind of made a nice little circle-ish area here. And then one more down, some parts, and then this is going to be like just a nice little pond. Something I could add over here, maybe a couple like just wet spots. It's not quite a pond, but just some areas where the water is kind of gathered over time. We can maybe add a slab, so maybe just grab this down here. Just for a nice little bit more color, and then one over here. There we go. Alright, so now back over here. So since it's a little bit more, well, less worn in like the pigs, they like the mud, they'll like some grass over here. So since we got a couple of these grassy areas, we can bone meal, get some more of this tall grass. Each of these areas, not too dense. That adds a little bit of life. And then, like over here, we're going to do the same thing with a, zoomed in too far, little water trough. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that should be good. Doesn't need to be huge. All filled up. And then, I'm going to go here with these acacia trapdoors. Think over on, let's go here. So on the outside of the block, so that we can get in some hay bales. Stack it up a little random like that. Make sure to keep them all, let the kind of latch on the same part. Nice, hold it in. So now they can, kind of like a trough, where they can kind of go in and grab the wheat or the hay. Want to add in like that to fill that up, so that's nice and good there. And then, like over here, we're going to have another structure. This one I'm going to kind of put away in the corner over here, using some tough walls. I'm going to replace some of these fences. About to there. So then we'll grab over this side. One more tall. And maybe like something like that. We can grab along to there. And then with these, I'm going to bring this up a little more. And then with the pinker, I'm going to attach these like this. I can grab this one up a little higher so it fits a bit better. And then the same for this side. And then I can remove these back here. Maybe add a little bit more just to fill it in. Now for the roof, so we're just going to go slabs again. So one over. Now like this. I can stack this over. It's going to grab that, so I'll just delete that in a second. Didn't do it as well as I thought it would, but good enough. Speeds up a little bit. Fill in these gaps. Off this so it has the supports. Bring that down so it fills in nicely, makes it the smooth walls. I think I'll add in like this, maybe block off the back, leave enough air, and it's just a nice little makeshift. I think I'll add in a little bit more just of overhang here, and then go around and add in there. There we go. And maybe along the back as well. You can add in a little bit more detail afterwards, but I think this looks good. So next thing is for the cows. So let's add in a couple cows here and there. I think that's a decent amount, maybe one or two more. So then that's all populated over there. So now on to the farming of the fields. Alright, so instead of doing the fields first, I decided to do a bit of detailing. So I finished up the gate up here. So kind of using these trapdoors for the little inset area. And then kind of a open version so it can kind of close if you were to measure the distance. I'm using trapdoors around a campfire opposed to a lantern because I want this to kind of stand out at night. Let's pop that to night. So it's a little bit brighter, and the smoke just adds a little bit more detail there. Pop back to noon. I added in a little storehouse for all the wheat and hay in here, so I got the floors covered and then a bunch stacked up. And then we got a shipment going out, so we got a couple horses on a little trolley here, so using trapdoors and then some slabs, and then these trapdoors, these are the most like wheels in this small area, and then loaded it up with a bit of wheat, maybe fill up a little bit more here. So that's ready to be taken off to the village or to the main city. So now to finish off this video, since we're coming to the end, I'm going to just do a time lapse of all of these areas, so the wheat, and then the two farms here, and then the trees. And you can kind of see a little time lapse of it all growing and being placed, finding the water. Since I said this isn't in a river, I can't irrigate it that way, so it'll be sneaking some water in. Technique I found works best. If I grab some water here, and then hide it like, nope, not that, like that. Then we go over here, grab our hoe. This will irrigate up to this far away. So you can see it's already started. It doesn't work on things above it, but around this area, so I can create a line of water under here and just hide it up. So it's more like the people are watering the area or it's getting the irrigation through rain. So I'll work on that, any other little details you can see in the time lapse, and then we'll finish off that episode. Alright, and that is today's video. So the farm's all done. Come on in here. A little bit of detail really livens up the area, expands upon the village. Got some animals, and then all of this wheat, carrots, and potatoes. For the apple orchard, I just kind of put in placeholders for now. So when I do another tree episode, so not these types of trees, more of like an oak tree, the custom tree episode for either the big forest over on that side, or a forest up on top of the mountains, I'll bring in and I'll just paste in a couple of those here and then add the apple entities after that. But I think that's enough for today's episode. We got quite a bit done, finished the entire farming district. Really expands upon, like I said, the area. If you've enjoyed this video, please give a like, subscribe for more videos coming soon, and until next time.